a whole figure.
Yeah.
That's how that's a possible reading for the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Except is that I'm not sure again because I haven't seen it. Is there something about the white cast, the dolly? It's a doll, really, isn't it? That is made there. Is there something about that that does? Well, you say there's something a little bit hoary about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, the sense that you get is that I think people look at it in different ways. There is a sense of, for many people, there is a sense of the uncanny, of something not being quite right.
Yeah.
And admittedly, to see that vision is not something that you expect if you don't know anything about the piece. And I think that it's a kind of shocking sight. But at the same time, it has a kind of bucolic scene quality. There is a tranquility that other people see in it.
Yes, it's like maybe she's on a picnic,
yeah,
and all her friends have gone off to have a swim in the waterfall.
At the same time, for me, Duchamp's piece has to do with a breaking of an architecture, of an existing architecture, which exists within the visual realm, a way of understanding the world visually, and that in a way he uses this piece to stage another way of looking that is focused on desire, but also builds a system around it, which we call here architecture, and it lends from architectural elements, but at the same time it's an abstract system that it can become a way of thinking as well. It derives from observation, it becomes an abstract construction comparable to architecture, and then affects modes of operating mentally.
But architecture isn't, I thought architecture, certainly since the 18th century, probably from long before then, always has been an abstract construction. I always thought that the idea that it was architecture is building is a mistake. Or it can be, you can apply it, you can use building as a means of expressing architectural ideas. Yeah. And I mean, there's a sense in which the piece that Duchamp has made, which is clearly not a painting, and it's clearly not a piece of sculpture, is a building. In a sense, it's a building. It's built. It's a built piece rather than a painted or a sculpted piece.
It's a built drawing. To use a term that Jonathan uses as well, Jonathan Hill.
Yeah, I suddenly think it might be quite useful now to leap back to the Renaissance and to think about another character who was challenging, I think, existing architectures, that being Brunelleschi. And he did those very interesting experiments, again, well, with panels in the piazzas in Florence. And well, the one that particularly comes to my mind in relationship to the Étant Donnés is the little panel with the hole the size of a lentil that you would put up to your, that had a painting of the baptistry on, and you put that up to your face, and then you'd hold a mirror like that, and then you make, between those two, you make this space that does something very strange to the way.
Proof of perspective as the true way of looking, of seeing.
Yes, I see that.
Yeah. Brunelleschi was not so much questioning different other existing ways of other existing architectures, but inventing a new one. I think that was interesting.
Inventing the first one.
Inventing not the first one, because it's a reinterpretation of a Greek way of looking as well. A kind of misreading of a Greek way of looking that pushes it even further. But what I want to say is that what was quite interesting is that Brunelleschi was a surveyor. He was measuring Roman ruins, and it was through this way of looking when he was surveying Roman ruins that he developed this theory. He developed a system of painting and rendered two-dimensional plane. Alberti came afterwards and developed a theory, developed
He turned it. He discussed about it.
Whereas Brunelleschi was more hands-on.
He
was someone that was looking and making
yeah.
and developing it through the drawing or through dealing with lines, painting.
And buildings. He did quite a few.
And buildings, yeah.
I mean, obviously Duchamp would have known about Brunelleschi.
Mm-hmm.
And
he was an ardent reader of perspectivists. He spent some time studying perspective, and so he was what he called himself a defrocked Cartesian. I think what Duchamp is doing is that he's setting up a way of exposing binocular vision. Perspective is based on a singular point of view, whereas that door in Étant Donnés has two holes, and it's through these two holes that you perceive the scene beyond. And I think what he was trying to show us through that piece is the way that we have forgotten the other eye, that through perspective and through operating in a two-dimensional representation world, we have forgotten the other eye.
Why is the female body an object of desire far more than the male body is? What's the psychophysiology of that?
This is something that has been a very critical point in terms of Duchamp's work in that specific piece.
Yes.
But also within the whole surrealist imagery, and how the female body has been a very important trope, but there are some connotations of fragmentation and perhaps violence connected with the way that it's presented. I think it probably has to do with this whole idea of breaking architectures and breaking the object of desire that the surrealists were interested in, and the female body becomes that object.
It's what you mean. It stands for the object of desire, the system of representation that they want to revolutionise.
Yeah, and question.
Yeah.
And so, but at the same time,
how does it get to do that? How does the female body get to occupy that position? Why is it sort of almost, I wouldn't say unquestionable, that the female, it's almost a privileged position that the female figure has in the tradition of Western art?
I think that beyond, I think for me that beyond this idea of the male gaze and the objectification of the female body, which is something that definitely happens in the way that male artists represent the body, there's something more within that, because I think it has to do with the way that perhaps female sensibility has the female body as part of the object of desire as well, and in that it happens through looking at yourself being looked at. And I think that this is something that is described within Duchamp's piece, this thing that we've discussed before, this idea that when you look through the peepholes, you have a sense that you're caught within the gaze of the nude,
yeah.
You're looking, that you're part of her own daydream, her own erotic daydream. And I think that the female body is the primary object of desire for both male and female
yes, because of the
experience, because it relates with the primary object of desire, which is the mother, and for everyone the mother
or the doorbell
is a female. Yeah, I mean that goes back to Melanie Klein's ideas about the primary object of desire being the female breast,
yeah.
And that there is a good breast and a bad breast, and it's the good breast that offers the satisfaction of desire, but it's the bad breast that denies that satisfaction. There is a projection of all badness on that bad breast that fragments it and makes it. So